Hey everyone, tonight we're stepping off the marble steps of Olympus, but we're not here for epic battles or thunderbolt showdowns as you've seen on screen, because Greek myths aren't just heroic sagas and slow-motion heroics. They're a tangled web of jealousy, revenge, and divine temper tantrums that span generations. Gods scheming behind golden thrones, mortals scrambling for scraps of favor, and fates decided by a whispered insult at a banquet table. So if you came expecting noble quests and triumphant music, prepare to trade chiseled statues for real-world chaos, where vengeance waits beneath every feast. Mercy is a fleeting rumor, and one careless word can spark centuries of torment. We're diving into dusty legends, fractured frescoes, and whispered warnings, not CGI epics. But before we dive in, let me know if you're enjoying this kind of gentle history. Feel free to tap that like button and subscribe, only if you truly love the story. And in the comments, share where you're tuning in from and what time it is in your city. I always love seeing our little bedtime crew gathering from every corner of the world. Tomorrow, come back and tell me which part of the story you fell asleep during. I'd really love to know. Now lower your lights. Maybe let a soft fan hum in the background and settle in. Let's ease into tonight's quiet journey together. Chapter 1. Welcome to Olympus, where everyone's on a knife edge. Imagine yourself stepping onto a marble terrace so vast it seems to float on clouds. A gentle breeze carries the scent of ambrosia and jasmine. Golden columns rise on every side, supporting a roof carved with scenes of titans in combat. The chatter of deities drifts toward you, an undercurrent of laughter laced with thinly veiled threats. Here, atop Mount Olympus, the gods hold court. But don't let the beauty fool you. Paradise can turn perilous with the slightest misstep. You've been invited to a feast in your honor. Mortals rarely receive such an audience. Yet here you stand, nervously clutching the edge of your cloak. A silver goblet brims with nectar, fog curling from its rim, and platters heave under fruits that glow from within. The table glitters as if dusted with stars. But as you glance around, you notice uneasy glances exchanged over delicate pastries. A whispered insult, a misplaced compliment, can spark a quarrel that echoes for centuries. In this hall, every word is a gamble. Across from you sits Hera, her eyes narrower than a hawk's. To her left, Poseidon's fingers drum on the table, each tap a warning of earthquakes to come. Zeus reclines on a throne of ivory, thunderbolts coiled at his belt. Even the laughter of Dionysus rings hollow, resonating with the promise of madness. The gods seem distracted, their attention drifting like restless spirits. An illusionist show is in progress, Hermes flitting between guests, conjuring phantom birds. But no one applauds. This is no ordinary party trick. It's a test of nerves. You clear your throat and speak a polite greeting. The hall goes silent. Fingers tighten on goblets. Zeus peers over the rim of his wine, bristles at your modest offering of song, then motions for silence. We honor this mortal, he rumbles. Sing for us. You swallow as all eyes turn toward you. In that moment, you understand. Olympus rewards boldness and punishes hesitation. A single mispronounced lyric could be taken as mockery. One misplaced note might earn you wings of wax, or a lightning bolt through the heart. Heart pounding, you begin. Your voice trembles at first but steadies as you weave a simple tune about a fisherman's wife who outsmarted a cunning fox. The gods lean in, brows furrowed. Halfway through, the fox's trick becomes too clever for their taste. Hera frowns. Is that how you see us? She hisses. Her words drip with ice. Deceitful? Petty? A ripple of discord spreads. You try to clarify. No, great queen, it was merely a fable. But she cuts you off. A gust of wind snaps your cloak. Silver dust falls from the ceiling like tears. At her glare, you realize every story has power here. And in a single reframing, you have insulted one of the most formidable figures in myth. The hall tilts, as if reality itself has grown unstable. You race to finish your song, voice breaking on the final note. A hush lingers, pregnant with anticipation. Moments stretch like centuries. Then Zeus exhales, and the tension snaps. He turns to Hera, eyes glittering mischievously. "Well sung, mortal," he says. "Relief floods you, but it's short-lived. The debt you've incurred remains unpaid." Before you can bow, a horn sounds at the terrace edge. A messenger, a knotted bundle of concern, rushes in bearing news of a transgression on earth. A farmer dared to claim the land Poseidon created. His fields now crumble to salt. The messenger begs for mercy. Poseidon's grin is slow and wide, a fitting retribution. He declares, voice rolling like thunder, the trembling herald knows better than to protest, and you realize you have become both audience and witness to divine cruelty. You watch as the farmer's village collapses beneath a tidal wave summoned by a gesture as casual as flicking ash from a pipe. Children's cries echo through marble halls. You turn away, stomach churning, but the gods' delight in spectacle is unforgiving. They sip nectar with untroubled faces. A game has been played, and they emerge entertained. For mortals, there is no pause button. No rulebook can contain the whims of immortals. A sudden burst of music draws your gaze back to the feast. Apollo appears, lyre in hand, casting beams of sunlight through stained glass windows. His melody is exquisite, too exquisite. Each note seems to unravel threads of sanity. You feel the edges of your mind fray. The singer at your side collapses, lips sealed in an eternal aria of madness. Apollo's lips curve into a cruel smile. Art demands sacrifice. He says softly, no one flinches. No one questions the cost. Your throat goes dry. You realize you have dwindled to a spectator in a tableau of divine excess, where life and death are entertainment. Athena strides in, clad in polished bronze, shield strapped to her back. She offers you a slender cup of wine, black as night. "Drink," she commands, proof of wisdom's price. You hesitate, but her gaze is unyielding, sharper than any sword. Swallowing, you taste knowledge, bitter and blazing. Visions of mortal wars flash behind your eyes. Strategies you do not want to know unravel in your brain. Athena's laughter echoes. Reeled by revelations, you stagger toward an exit, only to find it barred by Artemis, bow in hand. She steps forward, eyes cold as frost. No one leaves until the hunt concludes. She intones. Behind her, a pack of spectral hounds materializes, teeth bared. You imagine running, only to feel the weight of every broken oath you have ever whispered. In this realm, secrets are exposed, and escape is a myth. Every step might lead you deeper into danger. As panic surges, you recall the messenger's warning. Never assume divine favor is permanent. A god's smile can turn into a dagger in an instant. You inch backward, praying for a path unseen. Below, the clouds swirl like ink in water, hinting at storms yet to break. Olympus is a cage gilded in splendor and madness. Here, you are a pawn, your fate toyed with by immortal hands. In one swift motion, Hermes appears at your side. A flash of winged sandals and roguish grin. He extends a palm. "Follow me," he whispers. "But tread carefully." Relief and suspicion war within you. You take his hand, and the world tilts again. As he guides you down a columned corridor, you glimpse frescoes of past mortals who tried and failed to appease the gods. Faces frozen in terror. An artist's gallery of suffering. Hermes leads you to a small balcony overlooking the mortal realm. Far below, people labor in fields, build temples, and whisper prayers. To them, Olympus is a distant rumor. They sleep peacefully, ignorant of the capricious deities shaping their lives. "Cherish that ignorance," Hermes murmurs, "for here, knowledge is lethal." He presses a feather-light token into your palm. A charm carved from Athena's shield, blessed or cursed, with protection lasting until dawn. "Keep this close," he advises, "and remember, the greatest survival skill is unpredictability." With that, he vanishes in a swirl of wind, leaving you alone at the mountaintop's edge. Your legs tremble as you stand at the threshold between two worlds, one of mortal vulnerability, one of divine cruelty. You clutch the charm, aware that by sunrise you must make your escape, or be ensnared forever. Olympus gleams in the morning light, beautiful and dangerous as a serpent's scale. This feast, this test, has taught you the first lesson of surviving the gods. Never trust a smile, never assume mercy, and never forget that in their world stories are weapons. One wrong word, one misread gesture, and even Zeus himself could tear you apart like parchment. As the sun breaks the horizon, you slide down the mountain path. Behind you, Olympus recedes into clouds. Before you lies the realm of humans, fragile, flawed, unprotected. Yet here, at least, your fate is yours to shape. In the silence that follows, you vow never to return. For if you do, you'll discover swiftly that simple hospitality on Olympus is an illusion, and that, in the company of moody gods, you'd never truly survive. Chapter 2: Zeus, King of the Skies and the Impulsive Temper. Imagine standing on a windswept plain at the foot of a towering storm cloud. Its silver edges glow with electricity. You feel the hairs on your arms rise. Above you, thunder rumbles like a beast awakening from slumber. That beast is Zeus, supreme ruler of gods and men, wielder of thunderbolts, dispenser of fate. In his presence, logic dissolves, and survival depends on vanishing into the shadows of his whims. You are a humble shepherd named Kimin. By dawn, you have already guided your flock through low hills and grazing meadows. You marvel at the green sweep of the land, rolling hills dotted with olive trees, a ribbon of river glinting in the sunlight. But today, you sense a shift. The earth beneath your feet vibrates. Clouds gather at unnatural speed. The flock grows restless, bleeding in confusion. At first, you think it a summer storm. You sheath your shepherd's crook and whistle sharply, calling the sheep to shelter beneath a rocky overhang. But the wind gathers intensity, flinging dust into your eyes. You blink through grit, spotting a colossal form in the swirling gray. A figure robed in cloud, eyes aflame with power. A great staff cracks with lightning in his hand. You freeze. Kimin the shepherd is not a hero of legend. He did not slay monsters or consult oracles. He simply tended goats. Yet here, on this brimstone-breathing plain, he stands before Zeus himself. "Why do you gather my children in the storm's path?" Zeus's voice crashes like thunder rolling across mountains. Kimin bows, voice shaking. "Great Lord, I sought shelter, for I feared for their lives. Zeus's eyes narrow. A bolt flickers along his staff. Fear, he repeats. Fear weakens mortals. He raises his hand, and the world shivers. Lightning leaps from his fingertips, coursing down toward the flock. Panic claws at Kimon's chest. If he moves, he may anger the god further. If he stays, the bolt will incinerate everything he loves. In that moment, Kimon remembers a whispered legend. Zeus sometimes spares those who display cunning. Hearts pounding, he picks up a handful of pebbles and flings them at the ground, kicking up dust between himself and the flock. Spare them, he shouts, voice cracking. Let them taste the wind without pain. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the lightning bolt splinters into 1,000 sparks, each striking a nearby rock and shattering it into fragments. Kimon staggers, ears ringing, but sheep bleat and stamp contentedly. Not a single life lost. Zeus's booming laughter rattles the sky. Mortals, he booms. You think to bargain with the storm? He turns his gaze to Kimon, eyes blazing white-hot. I could smite you for insolence. The shepherd raises his chin, though terror wages war inside him. Then may your justice be swift, O king of gods. Zeus pauses. The storm cloud unravels slowly, like a curtain drawn back. The plain falls eerily silent. Sheep graze as if nothing happened. Zeus's chest heaves with laughter and something else. Respect, perhaps? He lowers his staff and strides away, clouds parting in his wake, leaving Kimon breathing deeply, heart tripping over itself with relief and awe. That single encounter encapsulates the nature of Zeus's mercy. Unpredictable, arbitrary, and always at his discretion. To live under his gaze is to balance on a razor's edge. Later that evening, you return to your small cottage on the hill. The hearth glows with embers. Your wife, Calliope, frowns when you burst through the door, wide-eyed and wild-haired. You relive every detail, the crackle of lightning, the terrifying laughter, the mercy that spared your flock. Calliope listens, arms crossed. Mercy? She murmurs. From a god who strikes at random? I heard he destroyed an entire village yesterday because its children laughed too loudly. You swallow. On the hearth a pot simmers with lentil stew. You ladle it into bowls and hand one to her. I know, you whisper. His temper is legendary. Yet today we saw his grace. She studies you. A coin spun in the air can land on either side. Zeus's soul is no different. She places a reassuring hand on your shoulder. Pray tonight that side stays in your favor. That night, sleep eludes you. You stare at the wooden beams of your ceiling, imagining the heavens themselves collapsing. You wonder how any mortal could navigate a life under Zeus's rule. Across the Aegean Sea, in the city of Philemon, a wealthy landowner wakes to catastrophe. Overnight, fields are charred black, cattle lie dead in pastures. Stone walls have shattered, as if struck by titanic fists. Panic grips the town. Rumors thunder through narrow lanes. Zeus's wrath has descended upon Philemon for some unnamed offense. Philemon, horrified, summons his steward, a clever young woman named Dion. Find out what we did to offend the Sky Lord, he commands. Offer sacrifices, beg forgiveness. Dion paces between broken columns of the family estate, mulling the situation. Perhaps we failed to erect the annual altar, she suggests. Or we overlooked the proper tributary feast. Late that afternoon, Dion leads a small delegation to the city's temple of Zeus. The precinct stands empty of priests. Most fled in terror. They carry baskets of barley, fresh lamb, and goblets of honeyed wine. Dion arranges the offerings on an altar of marble. She steps back, voice firm. "O mighty Zeus, king of gods and men, accept our humble gifts. Pardon our transgressions. We meant no neglect." She whispers an invocation. The sky darkens once more. Thunder crashes so loud it rattles amphory in nearby shops. Bystanders scatter. A figure appears atop the marble pediment. A silvery outline of Zeus, eyes flickering like coals. He surveys the offerings and the quaking mortals below. A gust rips through the courtyard, scattering barley in the air. Dion braces herself as a lightning bolt arcs from the sky, splitting the altar in two. But instead of striking them down, the bolt smashes the altar's shattered remnants into dust. Barley pulverized, lamb bones reduced to ash, the wine evaporated in a hiss. Zeus's voice rolls across the temple grounds. Empty vessels carry no guilt. He laughs, a sound like rolling boulders. You try to bribe me with tokens of half-hearted piety. A bolt flickers again. If you would spare your land, offer not gifts but genuine respect. And with that, he vanishes, leaving behind a cloud of dust and two terrified survivors. They return to Philemon's estate with heavy hearts. The god has demanded living tribute, not dead tokens. Dion later arranges for every household in the city to sacrifice a lamb at dawn. By midday, the fields begin to green again, cattle stir, and walls mend under invisible hands. But gratitude feels hollow, for no one knows on what whim the blessing will be revoked tomorrow. Meanwhile, in Athens, a traveling poet named Thalia pens odes to Zeus's greatness, hoping to secure favor in the god's capital. She composes verses praising his wisdom, power, and justice. Each line extols his fairness, painting him as protector of the weak. She stands on a makeshift stage in the agora, voice clear. "O mighty Zeus, whose thunderbolts light the path of righteousness." A crowd gathers, nodding heads and murmuring approval. Yet halfway through, Thalia's words stray into delicate praise of the tyrant Pisistratus, recently deposed and rumored to have bribed the gods for victory. In that slip, her plume of flattery drifts too close to political waters. That evening, Thalia collapses in her quarters with a fever. She dreams of Zeus's statue, eyes aflame, staff shattering stone. She wakes to find her voice hoarse, throat swollen, rendered mute. She cannot chant another ode. A local soothsayer declares it a divine punishment for speaking ill of Olympus's will. Thalia's career crumbles overnight. These stories share a common thread. Zeus's justice is not measured by mortal standards of fairness or proportion. He meteors down thunderbolts when he feels slighted, yet spares lives on a whim. Scenarios repeat across the lands. Towns destroyed by hyperactive storms, travelers lost in sudden squalls, fields regrown after elaborate penance, only to be ravaged once more weeks later. In Zeus's realm, stability is an illusion. One autumn evening, a philosopher named Lysander convenes a small gathering of disciples in the Stoa outside Thebes. Lanterns cast wavering light on earnest faces. Lysander addresses the group. "We speak of justice as if it were harmony and balance, but the king of gods laughs at our definitions. His virtue is power itself, held and unleashed as he wills." A disciple, Callias, protests. "Surely there must be consistency. Promises in thunderbolts imply oaths." Lysander shakes his head. "The only promise Zeus keeps is that he will not keep his promises. Every oath he swears is bound to the moment. Tomorrow, he may forget. Today's blessing becomes tomorrow's curse. He gestures to a bronze basin of water at his feet. Observe this basin. You may think it's still, but if you drop a pebble, ripples will spread. The basin is our world, and Zeus the hand that hurls stones without warning. The disciples fall silent. Fear seeps into their bones. Some leave at once. No one wishes to live under such a god's caprice. As winter's frost approaches, a final tale unfolds in a mountain village near Dodona. Here, the oldest oracle of Zeus murmurs through rustling oak leaves. Pilgrims trek across snow-lashed paths to hear divinations. Single words whispered in the wind. One traveler, Thean, seeks guidance for his young son's fate. Stricken by illness, kneeling before the sacred oak, he whispers his plea. The wind responds, "Bring water from the highest peak by dawn." Thean scales icy cliffs, frigid air biting flesh. He gathers snowmelt in a crystal flask. As he descends, a sudden storm engulfs him. Torrential sleet pelts his face. He struggles down the slope, filling flask trembling with cold. He reaches the oracle's grove by first light, flask clutched like his last hope. He kneels and pours the water at the oak's roots. For a moment, nothing stirs. Then a branch cracks overhead. A voice reverberates. Water given, fate delivered. Thean returns home, hopeful. His son stirs from unconsciousness and sits up, eyes bright. Joy floods their home, but fate's balance remains precarious. That same evening, distant thunder echoes. A bolt splits a neighbor's barn in two, killing livestock. The villagers close their doors and shudder, wondering if tomorrow they too will pay the price of another oracle's decree. In each of these episodes, Zeus is not a guardian of cosmic law. He is the law incarnate. His moods shape reality, and his mercies hang by threads of lightning. To live in his world is to embrace uncertainty. One day you thrive under his favor, the next you perish under his anger. As dawn breaks on your final day beneath Zeus's sky, you glance upward. Clouds drift lazily, but you know better than to trust their calm. At any moment, a single thought of his anger, boredom, curiosity could unleash storms, earthquakes, or divine spectacles of suffering. You slip away from the fields and cottage where you once felt safe. The wind tousles your hair as you make for the mountains, seeking refuge in a hidden cave, a shelter you pray even Zeus cannot find. In the distance, thunder mutters like a warning. Your heart pounds with every step. You carry nothing but memories of those who tried and failed to bargain with him. Cimon the shepherd, Philemon the landowner, Thalia the poet, Lysander the philosopher, and Thean the father. All gambled with Zeus's temperament, thinking they understood mercy or justice. All learned that mortal wisdom is a fragile shield. As you enter the cave's mouth, you trace its jagged walls with trembling fingers. You settle against cool rock. Outside, the wind picks up, and the sky darkens once more. Somewhere above, Zeus reigns supreme, omnipotent and unpredictable. In this solitude, you vow never to cross paths with Zeus again. To survive his reign, you must live in obscurity, shrouded in anonymity, silent in worship, hidden from his thunderous gaze. Because in the realm of gods, the greatest crime is to be noticed. And that is the first rule of living under Zeus's sky. Stay small, stay quiet, and never challenge the Lightning King. For in his world, every breath is borrowed, every blessing is conditional, and every moment can be your last, struck down by a bolt born of divine impulse. Chapter 3: Hera, the Queen of Hostility and Domestic Spite. You arrive at a tranquil valley, its rolling meadows awash in golden light. A gentle stream murmurs through wildflowers, and the scent of lemon blossoms drifts on a warm breeze. The air feels peaceful, almost too peaceful. As you step closer to a cluster of shaded pines, the earth trembles beneath your feet. The sky shivers, and a woman of regal bearing emerges, crown gleaming, peplos swirling. She is Hera, queen of the gods, goddess of marriage and childbirth, and a force of unending wrath. Beneath her composed visage lies a storm of jealousy, suspicion, and vindictiveness. In her realm, domestic life is a battlefield, and the smallest perceived slight can spark decades of torment. You are Callisto, a young maiden chosen as priestess in Hera's woodland shrine. Your duties are simple. Tend sacred flames, gather honey from hives high in the oak groves, and sing hymns at dawn. For months, you have served with unwavering devotion. You rise before sunrise, braid fresh garlands of ivy, and walk barefoot across dew-kissed stones, lips humming prayers of loyalty. You have never known fear until today. This morning, as you stir embers in the hearth, a hush falls over the grove. The birdsong halts, and even the stream seems to pause. You sense a presence behind you. You turn, plucking up your robes, and there stands Hera, eyes gleaming like black pearls. Her lips curve in a calm smile, but her eyes blaze with accusation. "Why have you neglected my altar?" she demands in a voice that echoes like metal on marble. You freeze, heart pounding. The altar is pristine. Just yesterday, you swept away autumn leaves and placed new olive oil lamps. Yet in her gaze you feel guilt. I offered my prayers. You stammer, voice trembling. Last night, I filled the basin with spring water and sang your praises. Hera's eyebrows draw together. And yet, the lamp flickers low. The basin's water has turned murky. She steps forward. The air cools. I see a shadow on your soul. Panic surges. You kneel and press your palms to the ground, eyes cast down. "Please forgive me, great queen," you beg. "I meant no neglect." Hera's smile fades. She lifts a finger, and a delicate wreath of jasmine crumbles to ash in her hand. Intentions are useless unless proven. She raises her arm, and a tremor ripples through the grove, snapping branches and stirring dust. Prove your devotion. Your mind races. You remember a local shepherd who once smuggled honey from the shrine to trade in town. If you expose him, you might divert her ire. Yet betrayal sits uneasily in your heart. Still trembling, you point toward the path. There young Nico stole from us. Hera's eyes flicker with satisfaction. A worthy sacrifice. She snaps her fingers. In an instant, Nico staggers into view, hands bound by spectral serpents. He pleads, stammering denials. Hera laughs softly, cruel and low. Justice will be served. You watch in horror as Nico is dragged away to face a punishment you cannot see. The grove quakes, a warning that the price of survival under Hera's reign is always paid by someone. That afternoon, you return to fetch water from the stream. Each step feels heavy, as if corrupted by fear. You fill a golden jug, muscles trembling. From the corner of your eye, you glimpse flickers. Tiny motes of silver light dancing among reeds. Curious, you follow them upstream, mind briefly forgetting terror. At a bend in the waterway, you discover a hidden grotto. Cool air spills from its mouth, and faint laughter echoes within. You peer inside and find two figures. Leto, goddess of motherhood, and her twin children, Apollo and Artemis. They laugh and splash in crystal pools. Leto's face is calm, her golden hair threaded with lilies. She beckons you closer. You approach, thirst momentarily forgotten. "Greetings, priestess." Leto says kindly. You incline your head. "Why hide here?" you ask. "Is this not your sacred shrine?" Leto's eyes cloud with sorrow. "Hera's jealousy burns brighter than our stars. She forbade our worship within her domain. These caves are all that remain of a mother's sanctuary." Apollo's laughter rings again. "We find refuge where her gaze cannot scorch us." Your heart twists with sympathy and fear. Hera's wrath is legendary. Still, in Leto's company you feel a spark of compassion. You kneel beside the children as they collect smooth stones to skip. "I will guard your secret," you vow. But beware, Hera's eyes are everywhere. Leto smiles gratefully. "You have a brave heart, a trait Hera despises." You linger only a moment longer, then slip back downstream, jug in hand, mind a whirl. In your chest, a new fear takes root. Mercy offered to the exiled gods can become Hera's target. That evening, you return to your hut to find a messenger waiting. Heracles, a distant cousin who once brought laughter to your hearth. He kneels, head bowed. "I come seeking Hera's blessing," he says. "My bride greets soon, and we wish to wed beneath her protection." You offer him water and bread, but his gaze is heavy with dread. "I heard whispers," he admits. Hera has been unsettled by recent marriages. She broods over every vow taken by mortals. You recall the legend of Semele, Heracles' mother, consumed by Hera's jealousy until she perished. You hesitate, then nod. "I will entreat the queen on your behalf," you say. Before dawn, you carry sweet cakes and garlands to Hera's altar. You kneel, hands clasped. "Great Hera," you pray, voice soft yet steady. "Bless the union of Heracles and Megara. Let their love thrive under your watchful eye." Behind you, a breeze stirs. You lean forward when a voice as cold as marble speaks. "Love declared under my name must be tested." You whirl to find Hera standing between you and the altar. In one hand, she holds a chalice of wine dark as night. "Invite the bride-to-be," Hera instructs. "If her love is true, she will drink this cup and praise you in my name." You swallow. How could anyone refuse the queen's command? Yet you dread the chalice's contents. Rage, madness, or worse. "Megara is not here," you reply, voice trembling. "She tends her father's home. She cannot travel." Hera's eyes narrow. "Then I will fetch her myself." She raises the chalice. "Bring her to me, or her name will be stricken from the list of the living." You sprint back to Heracles' cottage, heart pounding like war drums. Smoke curls from the hearth, and torches gutter weakly. Heracles and Megara stand before you, hand in hand, faces pale. Hera demands your presence. You gasp. Drink from her cup now. Megara listens to your frantic words, then turns to Heracles. His shoulders slump. "I cannot let her drink a god's wine." Megara glances at you. "What shall I do?" You step forward. "Trust your heart," you whisper. "If your love is true, the wine will not harm you." Megara's lips curve into a small, determined smile. She takes the chalice and lifts it to her lips. You exhale as she drinks. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then her eyes glow with fierce light. She turns to Heracles and speaks with a voice that reverberates like temple bells. "O Hera, mother of gods and mortals, I drink your gift with reverence and love. Hera appears beside you in a shimmer of golden light. She regards Megara with unreadable eyes. After a pause that stretches like eternity, she nods once. Imperceptible but absolute, the chalice vanishes. Megara staggers, tears of relief glistening on her cheeks. Heracles collapses to his knees. I owe you my life. You bow your head. Hera's favor is as rare as a phoenix's feather. You feel gratitude and dread mingling in your chest. Days later, word spreads that Heracles and Megara's marriage has Hera's blessing. The valley buzzes with celebratory feasts and vine-laden tables. Yet beneath the laughter, you sense tension. No blessing from Hera can be taken at face value. One moonlit night, you wake to screams echoing in the fields. Flinging on your cloak, you rush outside. In the shadow of olive trees, you find Megara cradling her children. Dread etched on her face. Heracles stands by, muscles knotted with confusion. They burn, Megara sobs. My children's bodies smolder. You kneel beside them. Sure enough, two small charcoal shapes lie on the ground. Ashes drifting in the breeze, a faint, mocking laughter carries on the wind. Heracles' face contorts in rage. He grabs a torch and hurls it to the ground. This is Hera's work. You place a steadying hand on his arm. Her blessing was conditional. You remind him. Never trust that her mercy endures. He turns away, grief and fury warring in his eyes. You help them carry the remains to a pyre, where they bid farewell in muted ceremony. The wind sighs overhead, as if satisfied by the suffering. In the weeks that follow, you begin to withdraw from courtly life. Each story of Hera's favor turning to tragedy chills your blood. You collect tales from neighboring villages. Wives struck barren, midwives haunted by visions, entire families uprooted when Hera's jealousy flared at mortal happiness. You confide in Leto under the moonlit oaks. She listens, expression somber. Hera's cruelty knows no bounds. Mortals who serve her must tread a razor's edge between devotion and destruction. You shiver. Then how do any survive? Leto's smile is sad. With secrets, lies, and endless vigilance, she rests a comforting hand on your shoulder. Pretend to worship, but keep your heart hidden. Never invite her gaze, for in her presence, love turns to ashes. One dawn, you awaken to find the shrine empty. Flames gutter low in the lamps, petals wilted on the altars, and no sign of the other priestesses. Fear claws at your chest. You follow cold footprints to the altar steps. There, in red dust, spelled out in jagged letters, is a single word: fugitive. Before you can react, a cold hand grips your arm. You whirl to face Hera herself, draped in a cloak dark as a starless night. Her eyes hold centuries of scorn. You know too much, she says softly. Too many secrets. She lifts her hand, and the world fractures into splinters of light. Pain courses through your limbs. You try to cry out but find no voice. A golden teacher's scepter replaces Hera's hand, an object from the shrine you once polished. Hera holds it aloft, examining it as one inspects a toy. Then she casts it aside, and it shatters on the stones. You will wander as an exile, Hera declares, bound to nothing, seeking naught but safety in a world you no longer belong to. Your vision blurs. The grove dissolves around you. You stumble, clutching at roots and branches, powerless to resist. A final whisper hangs on the wind. May your life be as restless as my wrath. The next thing you know, You awaken at dawn on a lonely hillside, robe tattered, feet bleeding. The air is cold, unfamiliar. You stand, staggering to your feet as the sun rises. The hillside is dotted with grazing goats, but no temple stands nearby. Your home, your purpose, your community, all gone in a whirlwind of divine spite. You tighten your cloak around you and survey the landscape. Hills roll into mist. Distant peaks catch the light. You are alone, an exile from Hera's valley, stripped of your identity and safety. On the horizon, the path leads toward uncertain valleys and foreign cities. As you descend, each footstep feels like a step away from everything you knew. In your heart, you carry two lessons. First, that no mortal can ever fully earn Hera's favor. And second, that her vengeance is as precise and personal as Cupid's arrow. Behind you, in the shaded grove, jasmine petals drift into dust. Ahead, your journey begins. A fragile pilgrimage through lands ruled by jealous gods and mortal fear. For in Hera's world, home itself is a myth, and survival depends on never staying in one place long enough for her wrath to catch up. Chapter 4, Poseidon, When the Sea Turns Against You. Imagine standing on the deck of a merchant vessel as dawn's first light fractures the horizon. The sea is glassy calm, the sky a pale promise. Yet even this serene moment stirs unease in your chest. You know that beneath the placid surface lies Poseidon's domain, vast, mysterious, and ruled by a temper more volatile than any storm. Here, every wave conceals a god's whim, and every breeze may carry his favor or his fury. You are Lysandros, first mate on the merchant brig Daphne's Fortune. Your captain, Corin, is a man of habit. Each voyage begins with an offering of barley and olive oil drizzled into the prow, and a whispered prayer to Poseidon. You learned early not to mock these rituals. One year, when Corin skipped the offering in a rush to catch the currents, the ship was stranded for weeks in dead calm, supplies dwindling. The crew's complaints only earned them a thunderstorm so fierce it shredded sails and drove half of them mad with despair. From that day on, no one questioned the oils and the barley. Today, as you move among the barrels and coiled ropes, you feel the usual tension. Hands dipped in grain husk, fingers crossed in hope. Corin strides up, weathered face creased by salt spray. He tips his tricorn hat at you and shouts above the lapping water. Remember, Lysandros. Leave more than you think you must. A token too small can anger him. You nod, when you slide a coin-sized bronze token into the carved niche at the figurehead. An image of Poseidon's trident. A ripple shivers through the water, as if acknowledged. Then you climb the mast to trim the sails, each movement measured, respectful, aware that even the smallest misstep might sour the god's delight. 3 days into the voyage, the Daphne's Fortune enters waters near the Cyclades. Islands drift against the sky like slumbering giants. Seagulls will overhead, screeching ancient portents. You survey the sea with a seasoned eye. Tiny whitecaps appear on the horizon. Storm-ruffled edges that should be ignored, yet you know better. Below deck, in the hold, crates of olive oil and amphorae of wine, Corin's prized cargo, are lashed securely. You wonder how many times these goods have passed through Poseidon's hands. The sea supports your livelihood, but it can just as easily swallow it. That afternoon, Corin orders an extra barrel of oil broken open at the figurehead. You and 2 deckhands haul the cask to the bow. The oil flows thick and golden. You pour it slowly, watching it spread across the wood grain like liquid amber. A drop spills onto your boot. You lick at it reflexively, tasting bitter salt and divine presence. It's the best flavor you'll have all week. Good, Corin mutters, stamping the empty barrel. Let's hope it pleases him. As if on cue, the wind shifts. A breeze whips into a gale, roiling the surface and snapping sails taut. You glance toward the masthead and spot a dark cloud boiling overhead, one storm cell isolated against the fiery sky. Below you, the sea darkens to inky green, white foam cresting like teeth. Down to the hold, Corin roars. You descend the narrow ladder, heart fluttering. The hold is dank with wine fumes. You brace yourself as a wall of water barrels sideways, nearly crushing your shoulder. You lock the hatch and secure the cargo. Outside, thunder cracks overhead. You can hear the wind tearing at canvas, feel the ship shudder as Poseidon brushes his cloak of storm across the deck. For hours, you fight to keep the Daphne's fortune afloat. Every man holds a rope, every mind tuned to the storm's rhythm. Lightning splits the sky, illuminating monstrous waves that rise like mountains. Water crashes in, hissing as it meets the hold's wood. You cling to the ladder, muscles burning, chanting under your breath, "Hail, Lord of the Deep, have mercy." In a moment of clarity, you remember a story an old sailor once told. Of a ship caught in the same storm, saved only when a young deckhand dove overboard to offer his blood to Poseidon directly. The boy's sacrifice, and the crimson thread that ran between him and the god beneath the waves, so touched the sea lord that the storm receded, leaving the vessel intact. You glance at your knuckles, white from strain, and feel a pulse in your palm. You make a rash decision. Below the deck, you unsheath a small dagger, meant for splitting rope in emergencies, and slash your palm. Crimson wells up, and you cup your hand to catch a drop. With a prayer on your lips, you smear the blood across the figurehead's carved eyes, staining the pale wood. Then you climb back into the storm-blasted gale and shout, "Poseidon, Lord of waves and earth, accept this gift. Spare us." The wind howls around you. Rain drips from the mast like tears. You wait, every sense blazing. Then, just as your courage wavers, the storm's roar subsides. The winds falter, the waves shrink, and the Daphne's fortune lists gently instead of convulsing. You exhale, knees giving out from relief and exhaustion. Below, deckhands weep or collapse in prayer. Corin staggers to the rail and kisses the wood, whispering thanks. In the aftermath, the sea lies flat as glass. A shaft of sunlight pierces the clouds, illuminating the battered sails. You tie a red ribbon around the figurehead's trident, an offering of gratitude, and vow to never speak of what you did. Some debts to the gods must be paid in silence. Weeks later, you arrive at the port of Saunian. White marble columns stand against the sky, the temple of Poseidon a sentinel overlooking the sea. Pilgrims and sailors gather on its steps, each seeking favor or forgiveness. Corin insists on a second offering, a bull to be sacrificed and libations poured over the altar. You help lower the bull with solemn reverence. Its coat gleams under the sun as a crowd forms. The high priest raises his knife, and you feel a shiver. The animal's warm eyes meet yours. You recall the deckhand's sacrifice and wonder if all offerings taste the same to a god, blood sweetened by fear, or blood willingly given. The priest's blade flashes. The bull's throat is cut, and its life flows into a bronze basin. Flames leap from the altar, crackling as they consume the offering. You pour oil and wine onto the flames. The smoke spirals skyward, carrying your hopes. By Poseidon's will, Corin murmurs, thumb tracing the salt-crusted marble. May his favor follow us home. You bow your head. praying that the Sea Lord's temper remains gentle as you set sail again. But even this careful devotion cannot guarantee safety. A month later, the Daphne's fortune departs with a hold heavy with saffron and silks, bound for Crete. The Mediterranean sparkles under a benign sun. You feel calm, too calm. The ship glides through still waters, gulls dancing overhead. On the third night, you stand watch under starlight. The sea is a black mirror. Silence presses in, broken only by the creak of timbers. A sudden splash jolts you upright. You scan the horizon but see nothing. Moments later, the deck lurches as if an unseen hand has shoved the ship from beneath. You grip the railing, pulse racing. A low moan moves through the water, a sound not of waves, but of lament. You recall that Poseidon is also god of earthquakes. He can shake the earth's bones as readily as he can churn the sea. If angered, he might unleash a tremor that splits the hull or crumbles coastal cliffs into the waves. You dash below decks, rousing the crew. Something's wrong. You warn, Poseidon stirs. Corin, rubbing sleep from his eyes, joins you. A god's warning, he mutters. We must appease him again. Without a word, you draw the last of the ship's oil from a reserve cask. You climb to the figurehead, coating it in the thick liquid. Then you break a length of rope and let the strands unwind into the sea. An additional token stripped from the ship itself. At once, the moaning stops, the deck settles. A hush reigns. You kneel panting, the smell of oil and seaweed heavy in your nostrils. Corin stands beside you, awe and fear etched on his face. You saved us, he whispers. Again, you do not reply. You know that each gift you give, each sacrifice you make, can be repaid with another demand. Poseidon's ledger never balances. You lower your head and vow to remain forever vigilant. Far to the north, in the city of Helice, another tragedy unfolds. Helice is famed for its temple to Poseidon, majestic colonnades rising above the sea like ivory sentinels. Each spring, the city holds a festival in the god's honor. Chariot races on the beach, processions of priests, and ritual feasts. This year, the people of Helice indulge themselves in excess. Gold flows like wine. Priests grow drunk on their own power. Tourists and pilgrims climb the temple steps unchallenged. Offerings pile so high that the god's altar is hidden beneath fruits, flowers, and precious metals. Then, on a morning as bright as any, the earth trembles. A low rumble shakes the colonnade. Temple stones crack. Athletes finish races, oblivious until dust chokes the air. Statues teeter. In the space of moments, the temple and the city collapses. A tsunami follows, swallowing the ruins and drowning survivors in salt water. From a hillside cloaked in olive groves, you and Corin watch the distant plume of dust and hear the sea hiss. Corin weeps. They mocked Poseidon's bounty, he sobs. He took it back. You place a hand on his shoulder. Greed and neglect anger him as much as insult. He nods, eyes hollow. No city, no festival can survive his tides. You turn back to the ship, resolve stealing in your veins. Your voyage continues, but your faith in ritual has changed. No longer do you treat offerings as mere routine. Each libation, each token, each spilled drop of blood is a negotiation. A contract written in water and sacrifice. And you know that Poseidon holds all the cards. Years pass, and your reputation as a reliable first mate grows. Captains request you for their voyages, certain that your rituals will secure safe passage. Yet you carry a secret fear, that every time you guide a ship safely through troubled seas, You are merely deferring Poseidon's debt, that one day he will collect in full. On your final voyage, you command your own ship, the ebb and flow. In the hold lie treasures from a dozen ports, spices from Egypt, ivory from Libya, fabrics from Persia. You feel the weight of your accumulated offerings, chalices of oil, ribbons of silk, pouches of incense, meant to placate the sea god. As the ebb and flow departs, you kneel at the bow with a handful of salt and barley. You pour them into the sea, reciting the oldest hymn you know. A pod of dolphins arcs alongside, breaching in playful salute. You smile through tears. Perhaps you think, this time the god's mercy is genuine. But as you turn to give the signal to hoist the sails, you hear a rumble from the deep. You grip the rail, heart thundering. The wind drops, the sea falls flat, as if holding its breath. You glimpse a dark shape below the surface, massive, coiled, unpredictable. In that moment you understand the final lesson of life under Poseidon's rule. No matter how many storms you weather, no matter how many offerings you give, you are always at the mercy of a force greater than your own. A single gesture, an insult you never meant, a meal you failed to share, a decoration you left too bright, can turn your smooth voyage into a funeral pyre. You clutch the rail, breath caught in your throat. Above you, clouds gather. You whisper a prayer so soft it almost doesn't leave your lips. Forgive us, Lord of the deep. The sea exhales, and a wave breaks against the hull. The ebb and flow creaks but remains upright. You exhale in relief, yet a chill runs through your soul. You know that with every moment of calm, the storm only grows. And that is Poseidon's ultimate power, to promise eternity and then steal it away in a single merciless wave. Chapter 5. Athena and Apollo, when wisdom and light become weapons. Imagine a dawn-lit courtyard in Athens, marble pillars glowing pale gold. Sunlight dances off polished shields and helmet crests. Yet this serenity is deceptive. Within these walls reign two gods whose gifts, wisdom and prophecy, can cut deeper than any blade. Athena, goddess of strategy and craft, and Apollo, god of light and music, hold power over mortal minds. In their realms, knowledge itself becomes a trap, and every revelation can be a curse. You are Callimachus, a young scribe apprentice to a renowned rhetorician. Each morning you copy scrolls of Homeric verses, treatises on geometry, and hymns to the gods. Your hands move in practiced precision, but your heart beats with uncertainty. You have heard that mortals who glimpse the gods' secrets are seldom unharmed. Still, you yearn for understanding, an opportunity to stand apart from the crowd and earn favor at the Athenian court. On the festival of Plantaria, you step into Athena's temple. Statues of war heroes stand in niches, bronze shields stacked like silent sentinels. Incense drifts from small burners, carrying the scent of frankincense and myrrh. At the center, a carved olive-wood statue of Athena holds a spear and shield. You bow, head low, and present a loaf of barley bread, baked with honey and sprinkled with sesame seeds. A petition scroll lies beneath, a request for divine insight that will guide your future. You retreat to the outer courtyard where pebbles whisper beneath your sandals. Twice you hear a rustling in the columns. You glance around. No wind stirs. Then you feel a presence. Athena, radiant in bronze armor, helmet crest high. Her bright eyes assess you with cool intensity. She steps forward, raising a hand. Callimachus, she says, voice crisp like steel. You seek knowledge. You kneel, voice quivering. "Great mistress, grant me wisdom to serve Athens and honor your name." Athena's lips curve in something like approval. "Stand, scribe, and listen." She places her hand on your shoulder. A jolt of clarity surges through your mind. Insights into architecture, mathematics, rhetoric, all unfold in brilliant flashes. You see the precise ratios needed to design a temple that could stand centuries, the subtle vowel shifts that make an oration unforgettable, the strategies to outmaneuver enemies in war without a single blade drawn. Your vision expands, your spirit soars. Then Athena steps back. The brilliance fades, leaving your mind buzzing like a swarm of bees. You stagger, pressing both hands to your temples. A voice, your own, echoes in your head. "Knowledge is power until it is pain." Athena watches you. "Wisdom is a tool, not a talisman. Use it sparingly, for the mind unguarded becomes prey to doubt." With that, she vanishes in a shimmer of dawn light. You collapse onto the temple steps, scrolls of petition forgotten, your soul trembling. That afternoon, you return home, uncertain how to integrate the flood of revelations. You spend hours scribbling diagrams and outlines, then tear them apart in frustration. Your mentor, Cleon the rhetorician, notices your agitation. He leans over your shoulder, examining scattered parchments. "Something troubles you," he says gently. You hesitate, then recount the morning's encounter. Cleon's eyes widen. "You have been touched by Athena herself," he murmurs. "This is rare and dangerous." You look up, hope and fear mingling in your gaze. "How so?" Cleon settles into a chair, stroking his beard. "Athena's gifts sharpen the mind, but they also expose every flaw. You may envision perfect arguments, yet each flaw in your own character will loom larger. You might see every weakness in others' speeches, yet be paralyzed by your own. You lower your head. "Is there a remedy?" Cleon shakes his head. "Only discipline and restraint. Channel what you were given into one craft. Too many pursuits scatter the soul. Focus, or wisdom will devour you." That night, you dream of endless halls lined with books, scrolls floating like leaves, voices whispering in tongues you almost understand. At dawn, you wake with sweat-damp sheets and a resolve. You will master rhetoric first, then allow other revelations to follow. Weeks pass. You craft speeches that sway local councils, earning praise and invitations to debate. Each success stokes your pride, but also your anxiety. You remember Athena's warning. Knowledge cuts both ways. At symposiums, you analyze opponents' speeches so thoroughly that they look away in shame. You become cleverer than you intended, subtle jabs hidden in compliments. At home, you replay your own words, dissecting them for hidden flaws. Sleep eludes you. One evening, Cleon summons you to the Acropolis under moonlight. He leads you to a cliff's edge. Below, Athens spreads, a tapestry of light and shadow. "Callimachus," he says gravely, "your brilliance risks becoming your prison. I have secured an audience with Apollo. His rites here are silent. No oracles, no madness, only music and reflection. He may help you see the path ahead." Your heart pounds at the thought of Apollo, whose prophetic power is famed and feared. You nod, and together you descend the stone steps to a small cave beneath the Parthenon. Torches gutter in bronze sconces as you enter. In the center, a lyre rests on an altar. Cleon kneels and strikes the strings. A single note rings out, pure, resonant, aching. You kneel beside him. "Mighty Apollo," Cleon intones, Lend this student of Athena a vision to balance his mind. The lyre's song shifts into a melody that seems to pluck at your memories. Colors you have never seen, words you have never spoken. When the final chord fades, you feel a shift in your awareness. You glimpse potential futures, victories, fame, ruin. You see yourself delivering speeches in grand halls, then exiled for quieting a ruler's conscience. You see yourself torn between truth and loyalty, each choice fracturing your spirit. A hush settles. You feel exposed, as if Apollo's light turned your heart inside out. Then a voice, gentle and clear, speaks in your mind. The future is not a canvas painted by destiny, but a tapestry woven by choice. Choose your threads wisely. You bow your head. When you rise, the cave is empty. No sign of God or guide, only lingering warmth. Returning to Athens, you carry Apollo's words like embers. You realize that prophecy and strategy, Apollo's vision, Athena's craft, are mirrors rather than maps. Each shows a reflection of your inner self. Wisdom without purpose breeds vanity. Foresight without courage breeds paralysis. One morning, a proclamation rings through the agora. A distant tyrant is marching toward the city. The council calls for advisors to prepare. Rhetoricians, generals, and priests converge in the council chamber. You step forward, palms open, voice steady. Honorable council, you begin. Athena grants U.S. strategy. We must fortify the northern gate and deploy phalanx formations to funnel the enemy. Apollo's light shows our will. By sending envoys under truce flags, we may test their leaders' resolve. The council murmurs. Some argue for open battle, others for diplomatic submission. Then you add, but most importantly, we must decide not from fear of tomorrow, but from belief in ourselves. If we choose cowardice, Athens is lost. Prophecy will see our ruin. If we choose courage, wisdom will guide our actions. A silence follows. Then the council votes and adopts your plan. Drums beat through the city as builders raise palisades and soldiers drill in formation. You watch the sunrise from the ramparts, heart thrumming with responsibility. Weeks later, the tyrant arrives with mercenary soldiers. Arrows rain overhead, shields clash. Yet your strategy holds. Enemy troops funnel into narrow trenches and become easy targets. A small envoy, under your counsel, meets the tyrant in the middle field. You stand behind the Persian banner, cloak billowing. The tyrant scowls but listens to the envoy's cautious words. Suddenly, arrows strike the envoy down. A signal, battle resumes in fury. You witness soldiers falling, dust and blood mingling. You pray Athena's tactical genius and Apollo's insight will be enough. Then a trumpet sounds from the enemy camp. The tyrant emerges, hand raised in peace. He lowers his weapon, his mercenaries follow. Exhaustion and respect have softened his face. He approaches the envoy's body and kneels. In a voice rough with sorrow, he promises tribute and an alliance. You exhale, legs weak with relief. The city erupts in cheers. You realize that true wisdom lies not only in plans or visions, but in understanding humanity's will, knowing when to fight and when to bend. That night, you ascend to the Parthenon under star-swept skies. You find Cleon waiting by the altar to Athena. He nods as you approach. You have honored both gods, he says. You used Athena's craft to hold the city, and Apollo's light to know when to seek peace. You offer a simple gift, a handcrafted helmet, etched with olive leaves, and a lyre string bound in ivory. Cleon places them on the altar. May these tokens remind future mortals that wisdom and foresight must walk hand in hand. You murmur. As you turn to leave, a breeze stirs the incense. A soft laughter echoes through marble corridors. You smile, knowing both Athena and Apollo have whispered their approval. In the days that follow, you continue your work as scribe and advisor. You teach others that knowledge is a double-edged sword. Sculpt it with purpose or be cut by its blade. You demonstrate that prophecy is not fate, but a mirror, one that shows possibilities and demands courageous choice. At symposiums, you tell your own story, of Athena's sudden gift and Apollo's haunting vision. Listeners lean forward, eyes bright. They ask how you overcame fear. You reply simply, by tempering insight with action, and never letting knowledge become a substitute for conviction. And so, under skies watched by two luminous gods, you find balance. You honor Athena's shield with your craft, and Apollo's lyre with your voice, ever mindful that in their realms, enlightenment carries responsibility. Because when wisdom and light become weapons, only those who wield them with heart and purpose can survive unscathed. Chapter 6. Artemis, Ares, and the Wild Hunt, Nature's Primal Wrath. Imagine a moonlit forest so silent you hear your own heartbeat. Silver light filters through ancient oaks, casting pale tracks across mossy stones. Somewhere in the darkness a branch snaps, not with the caution of prey, but the confidence of predator. Here, at the world's edge, the wild gods roam. Artemis, huntress of the woodland, and Ares, god of war, whose feral alliance unleashes terror on mortals foolish enough to trespass. You are Diodoros, a seasoned hunter from a mountain village. From childhood your father taught you to read the tracks of deer, to whisper to hounds, and to respect the forest's silent laws. Each autumn you lead your small band into the pines, offering bile and barley at Artemis's grove before the hunt begins. This year, though, something in the air feels wrong, earth scents sharper, shadows deeper. Before dawn you shoulder your bow and slip into the woods. 3 companions follow. Myrmex, the tracker, Philadelphia, who tends the hounds, and young Halamos, eager to prove himself. You move without a word, breath slow, senses taut. A faint breeze stirs leaves, but instead of carrying the familiar pine scent it brings a cold tang, like fear. At daybreak you find a buck's track near a stream. Horns tall as spears, coat gleaming in dawn light. The quarry is perfect. You raise your bow, notch an arrow, steady your arms. When a distant horn blows, low and mournful, your companions freeze. Philadelphia's hand goes to her throat. The call of the wild hunt, she whispers. You reel back, heart pounding. The wild hunt is no mere pack of hounds. It is a host of spectral riders led by Artemis herself, hunting souls rather than beasts. Legend says she summons it for mortals who disrespect her domain. Poachers who take more than they need, travelers who kill hounds for sport, or those who mock her virginity. Once the hunt begins, no place is safe. Trees bleed, streams boil, and even the moon hides its face. You lower your bow, hand trembling. Myrmex stares at the sky. They come, he says. I hear hoofbeats on stone. A clatter echoes between the trees. A procession of armor and antlers, interspersed with flickers of pale flame. Ghostly hounds with eyes like dying coals padding through undergrowth. The air vibrates with a distant drumbeat. Frozen with dread, you remember the oath you swore, to take only what your village needs, to spare does with fawns, to leave unripe fruit, to honor the sacred grove each year. Yet the forest itself seems to judge your past actions insufficient. A twig snaps behind you. Too close. A hound's breath steams in the dark. You turn and meet its gaze. Ancient, unblinking, as if it knows your sins. Run, you roar, yanking Halamos forward. Your band sprints through tangled underbrush, hounds and riders in pursuit. Moonlight flashes off spears and arrows notched in spectral bows. You duck beneath a low branch and feel a rush of wind. Artemis herself, astride a pale horse, cloak swirling. Her eyes, fierce and unyielding, lock onto yours. You skid to a halt, panting, arrow drawn. Mistress of beasts, you call, voice hoarse. We beg mercy. We honored you at the grove. Our offerings lay fresh on your altar. She raises her bow. Promise only lasts until next sunrise. Her voice rings like ice. Your words fall like withered leaves upon stone. She releases an arrow of moonlight. It whistles past your ear and splits the trunk of an oak behind you, flinging bark in every direction. Myrmex stumbles and falls. Pain sears in his leg. Desperation surges. You fling your own arrow toward Artemis, praying for a miracle. The shaft shatters against invisible armor. No god bleeds from mortal steel. Ares' war horn cut through the night, and his riders, barbarians in bronze, thunder past you, lances leveled at your chest. You fall backward, crush grass beneath your weight, as hooves and boots thunder over you. When you wake, dawn bleeds into the sky. You lie alone in a sunlit clearing. Your bow is snapped in two, your quiver empty. Myrmex and Philadelphia are gone. You struggle to your knees, staggering toward the sound of running water. In the stream's reflection you see yourself, broken, terrified, unworthy. You whisper a prayer as cool water spills over your hands. Artemis, huntress, I submit myself. Let me serve you. A breeze swirls petals of white flower across the water's surface. You stand, resolve trembling in your chest. You will find Myrmex in Philadelphia, or be lost yourself. But first you must survive. Weeks later, deep in the Anatolian hills, word spreads of a phantom warband terrorizing villages. Red-clad warriors appearing at midday, ending in blood and cinders. People call them the children of Ares, sent by the war god to punish the proud. No army claims responsibility. No banner flies. Houses burn, livestock slain, survivors vanish without trace. Rumors swirl that Ares rides with Artemis's wild hunt, an unholy alliance of death. You, Diodoros, track these rumors. Wounded but unbowed, you move like a ghost between villages, asking questions, following footprints. One moonless night, you arrive at Amberos, a hamlet carved into rocky cliffs. Torches gutter in rain, families huddle in stone huts. You slip inside the inn and find a group of villagers around a hearth. They share hushed tales of red helms flashing in torchlight, of crossbows that fire without hands, of bodies left in twisted poses, as if dancing a war ritual. A ringleader named Milos, once a fierce captain, claimed to have angered Ares personally and is now forced to lead the god's army, doomed to endless slaughter. You lean forward, voice quiet. I know of another host, Artemis's hunt. Perhaps these are two faces of the same terror. A woman, arms crossed, studies you. Then you've lived among gods themselves? She mutters. You nod. I survived the hunt once. We can end this, if we lure them apart. Villagers bristle at your boldness. How? They are immortal. You meet their gaze. By turning their strengths into weaknesses, you outline a plan. Build hollow horses, large platforms on wheels, then fill them with polished bronze mirrors and bronze plates. At dawn, you'll roll them into the field. Flames and echoes will play across the mirrors, prismatic light that confuses gods, and the hollow chambers will amplify their own war cries into a maddening chorus. Fear has undone armies before. Some scoff, most hesitate, but desperation drives them. All night, they forge mirrors from metal scraps, build wheels from fallen oak, and paint horses' heads on wooden frames. At first light, you position the decoys at the edge of a clearing, just where the red riders must pass. You and 20 villagers hide behind a ruined wall, bows raised. Overhead, raven caws breach the silence. A distant horn sounds, Ares' warblare, and the earth trembles. You squeeze the trigger of a hidden lever. Torches ignite, setting mirrors ablaze. Wheels roll forward, reflecting flickers of flame into impossible directions. From the trees, Artemis's hounds burst across the clearing, sightless until they whirl between mirrors and torches. Hounds collide with riders. Riders lunge in confusion, lances skewed by glare. The horse platforms turn like tumbling spires of light. Ares' soldiers roar in defiance, but their cries bounce back at them, distorted into a disorienting clamor. You release an arrow coated in sulfur. It skitters between mirrors and ignites the wooden horses. Fire surges, sending molten shards and sparks high into the air. The riders flinch, retreat into the forest. The wild hunt's horns clash with war trumpets, but the echoing chaos overloads their senses. You sprint into the clearing, urging villagers forward. Now! You shout. Push them back! Cries rise. Between fear and fury, they surge. Horses burn, mirrors shatter, torches gutter. A final, seismic crash rolls through the clearing as the combined host withdraws beyond the trees. Broken, shattered, unchast. You gasp for breath, knees buckling on charred turf. Around you, villagers cheer and collapse in relief. Myrmex stumbles in, legs still injured, but grin blooming. You did it, he rasps. You turn their own power against them. You nod, arm around him. But war and hunt cannot be tamed for long. You glance at the smoking ruins, silent testament to mortal ingenuity. That evening, you stand before Artemis's grove, now ruined by the god's rage. Columns are splintered, statues decapitated. You kneel on fractured marble, brush soot from your knees. Mistress, you murmur, your domain suffers because of me. I beg your forgiveness. A shaft of moonlight slants through broken roof stones. A soft footfall echoes. Artemis appears amid floating petals, gown glimmering like water. Her bow is strung. A single arrow rests on the string. You used light and fire to turn my hunt away, she says, voice cold but not unkind. Mortals have no right to defy me. You bow lower. Not defy, but survive. I offered my life to save others. Remove your wrath. Let this grove stand again. She studies you, then lowers her bow. Cunning mortal, but do not mistake mercy for weakness. She strikes the ground with her arrow. A ribbon of silvery bloom unfurls, knitting marble and vine around your knees. The grove breathes anew, vines curling over broken stones, new flowers blossoming in moonlight. Your debt is settled for now, she intones. But live as prey, not hunter. Wander under the stars, never resting too long. With that, she vanishes. The grove glows softly. Hounds bay in the distance. Echoes of the wild hunt, still hunting somewhere beyond sight. You depart at dawn, Myrmex leaning on your shoulder. As you cross a meadow, you glance back. The grove is whole again, but its peace feels fragile. Behind every shadow the wild hunt may linger. Beyond every battlefield, Ares's warriors await the next call to arms. You carry a small token, a carved arrow from Artemis, head dull and silvered by moonlight. It reminds you that nature and war are two faces of the same divine fury. To survive their wrath, mortals must remain vigilant, ready to turn cunning into weapon, fire into shield, and fear into unity. For in the realms of nature's primal gods, only those who embrace both predator and prey will live to tell the tale. And so you walk on, silent beneath ancient trees, every sense alive to the moonlit summons of the hunt. Chapter 7. The Olympic Aftermath: Why Mortals Were Doomed from the Start. You stand at the edge of a windswept plateau, eyes tracing the distant silhouette of Mount Olympus's highest peak. Below, fields ripple with grain, and a single road snakes toward the horizon. This land has known both blessing and ruin at the hands of the gods. Zeus's thunderbolts, Hera's spite, Poseidon's floods, Athena's cunning upheavals, Apollo's harsh truths, Artemis's ruthless hunts, and Ares's bloody crusades. Every foot of soil has been earned through sacrifice, deception, and constant fear. Your story begins generations ago, with a humble potter named Eucarpos. One evening, as he shaped clay by flickering lamp, he caught a glimpse of Athena in a dream, an apparition of bronze helm and olive branch. In the morning, he awoke to find a small olive sapling beside his wheel. Eucarpos transplanted it to his courtyard, watering it daily. As it grew, his pots took on a fine sheen, catching light in ways that dazzled those who bought them. Word of his wares spread through the market, stalls of Athens, and soon he was commissioned to craft vessels for the city's wealthiest families. His prosperity brought him pride, and pride attracted attention. One night, he boasted to a traveling salesman that no artisan in Greece could match his skill. The salesman, whose ears were always open for rumor, repeated the claim in Thebes. From there it spread to Corinth, then to the palace of King Cepheus, husband of Cassiopeia, whose vanity was matched only by Hera's. Cassiopeia, overhearing the rumor that a mortal dared claim parity with Athena's glory, was consumed by curiosity and envy. She journeyed to Eucarpos's workshop under cover of darkness, disguised as a humble patron. When she saw the pots gleaming like captured moonlight, she told the stunned artisan that a queen sought to commission an entire service set for her banquet halls. Eucarpos, flattered beyond measure, agreed. At the banquet, Cassiopeia announced before the assembled court that her new service was the work of a mortal rivaling a goddess. A hush fell. Then a voice like sharpened steel echoed from the shadows. Athena herself, invisible but unmistakable. Eucarpos's greatest pride crumbled in an instant. The sapling in his courtyard withered at her displeasure, and his pots cracked along fine fractures. Over the next year, his business collapsed, and Eucarpos spent his final days humbly reshaping broken shards into simple lamps to remind him of wisdom's price. Your grandmother, Damaris, was born that same year in a village near the sea. She grew up listening to Eucarpos's cautionary tale. The cracked lamps sat forever on her mother's hearth. Damaris learned to bow low to guests, to speak only when spoken to, and most of all, to give credit for every small success to the gods themselves. An ingrained humility that carried her through misfortunes the potter could never have imagined. One day, when Damaris was barely 12, a storm unlike any in living memory struck her village. The sea rose in iridescent walls, swallowing fishing boats and snapping wooden docks like twigs. No one knows why Poseidon chose that moment to unleash his fury. Some say a fishmonger had neglected the temple fish sacrifices. Others whisper that a fisherman tied too many nets to his smallest skiff. Whatever the cause, the storm laid waste to the harvest and left the village bereft. Damaris, running through ankle-deep water, clutched a small wooden talisman her mother had carved from the potter's broken lamps. The talisman bore Athena's symbol, a small owl perched on an olive sprig. As the waves closed in, she pressed it to her heart and whispered prayers to all 7 Olympian gods, begging them to spare her. When finally the winds died, she found herself miraculously on dry land, unscathed. The tale grew into legend, a child saved by humility and the memory of cracked lamps. Yet the village elders warned that this mercy was borrowed, not gifted, and that a debt had been incurred. Your father, Theron, carried that debt into his youth. He grew up taciturn, known to leave every feast early, unwilling to risk jesting before Hera or Poseidon. When he fell in love with Amine, a healer's daughter, he courted her with gifts, herbs from mountain springs, healing poultices enriched with honey. Amine adored him, but when they announced their engagement, Hera's jealous spies reported that Theron's tribute had omitted a small libation of barley at the shrine of Artemis in the woods. On their wedding day, as Theron slipped the ring onto Amine's finger, a pack of wild hounds, eyes blazing red and teeth bared, materialized among the guests. Driven by Artemis's fury, they scattered the wedding procession in terror. One of the younger bridesmaids was trampled. Guests fled into the forest, and Amine, panicked, slipped and struck her head on a rock. She never fully recovered her wits, wandering the forests for days, humming half-remembered lullabies. Theron searched the groves, offering prayers and tears to Artemis. He left barley, olives, and honey at every shrine he could find. Slowly, Amine returned home, but her mind remained veiled in shadows. The marriage was never consummated. She spent her days tending wounded animals. The village whispered that the hunter's goddess had taken Amine's future as her own tribute, and so the family debt compounded through generations. Pride broken by Athena, cruelty inflicted by Poseidon, devotion tested by Artemis. You grew up in this lineage of fear and reverence, taught that every word must be carefully weighed, every step blessed with ritual. Yet you also inherited something vital from Amine's broken mind: compassion for the wounded, a deep understanding of loss. That compassion led you to the foot of Mount Olympus today, clutching an offering of olive branches, barley grains, and a single lamp, shards bound together from Eucarpos' last creation. You have come to ask a final favor: respite from the ceaseless games of the gods, a chance for your family line to live as mortals, rather than pawns in immortal temperaments. When you arrive at the high altar, an unadorned slab of stone carved with the crowns of all 12 major deities, you kneel and arrange your offering carefully. Olive leaves glisten, barley specks glint in the morning sun, and the lamp fragments catch light in their uneven edges. You bow low and speak with a clear, steady voice. O mighty Olympus, children of Kronos, we offer these humble tokens in memory of Eucarpos' broken art, Damaris' humble prayers, Theron's tears of repentance, and Amine's boundless compassion. We ask not for favor, but for mercy, for a final reprieve from your burdens. Let our house be granted one generation of peace, that we may sow fields without fear, raise children without ritual, and end at last this cycle of worship and woe. Silence ripples across the plateau. No thunderbolt cracks the sky. No whirlwind stirs dust at your feet. For a moment, you dare to believe your plea has been heard. Then a soft wind stirs the olive branches. The barley grains shift, and the lamp shards glow briefly, as if touched by a hidden flame. You kneel, heart racing. Yet you also know the precarious truth. Olympus's mercy is seldom open-ended. A single moment of calm may conceal a storm gathering elsewhere. Even as you rise, you feel the weight of the god's gaze, waiting to see what you will do with this gift. Whether you will honor the peace you crave or squander it in mortal pride. Throughout the day, you descend the mountain and feel an unfamiliar lightness. Fields seem greener, birdsong rings clearer, and you catch your reflection in a stream. Steady, hopeful, unfrightened. For the first time in your life, you imagine raising children without teaching them to cower before hidden watchfulness. You imagine simple weddings, hearty feasts, and laughter untainted by worry. That evening, you gather your kin in a lantern-lit courtyard. You share bread and dried figs, pour wine freely, and tell stories of your ancestors. Not as warnings, but as lessons overcome. Laughter ripples through the group, and you realize tears are falling. Tears of relief, of joy, of release. As the night deepens, you step outside to close the courtyard gate. Above you, stars crown the heavens in silent witness. You whisper a final prayer, not to beg the gods for anything more, but to give thanks for this moment of reprieve. You say simply, "From this night forth, may we live as mortals among mortals, guided by our own hearts." A breeze stirs overhead. You hold your breath. It feels like a nod. The olives overhead rustle gently. You smile, feeling for once that harmony might outlast a single season. Yet deep inside, you carry a quiet awareness. In the world of Greek mythology, no blessing lasts forever. The gods delight in balance, and balance demands counterweight. Should your family slip into complacency, should you boast of your newfound freedom, the cycle may begin anew. But for now, beneath the stars and free from dread, you stand tall. You have knelt, repented, and asked for mercy. In that act, you have broken the chain that bound your ancestors. Whether the gods uphold their silent promise remains to be seen. Yet as you return to your family's laughter and candlelight, you carry with you a simple truth. Even in the realm of moody immortals, mortals can carve out moments of peace, and in those moments, we are truly alive.